The Breakdown.
In the news this week, following a career-defining headlining set at the 20th Download Festival, Bring Me the Horizon announced Post-Human Next Gen, which is going to be their brand new EP. It's scheduled to release September 15th. Doesn't officially have a track listing. Presumably Lost in Amen will be on there. And Bring Me the Horizon also shared that they were going to be embarking on the Next Gen World Tour, which currently only has like UK European dates, but will feature support from Bad Omens, Cassette, and Static Dress.
World Tour, right?
Right, like you hear the word, you see, hear, read the words World Tour, and you're like, okay, I'm expecting more here. Though I guess in my mind, I'm kind of curious if this band kind of conflates their support slot to Fall Out Boy during this summer as part of this World Tour. Like, it's entirely possible, right?
That or like, you know, those dates we did to like Knock to Loose last year. Like, what was that considered? Like
it's hard to say for sure, right?
I have a lot of questions here. Like,
sure, what do you got? Hit me.
Sure.
I'll answer every question.
Lost
Go.
is probably on here, right? Amen are probably on here.
Yeah.
Strangers? Where's Strangers? Is that on here? I don't know. Like, how many tracks are on here?
I think this band has tried so much, and at this point I'm not even entirely sure what stuck and what didn't, right? Like in my mind, precisely, it's like I think back and I'm like, okay, I feel like Die For You did kind of like pop a little bit, and I feel like Strangers popped a little bit, but it does feel like we kind of started over with Lost in a way that I don't know if I'm fabricating in my mind or if it actually happened.
Post-Human was weird, right? So like, biggest thing here, oh my god, Post-Human 2 has finally been announced, right? Next Gen. We have like a number of singles, and I remember with Post Gen it was the same conversation, like, what's on it? None of us expected the Death Stranding track to be on there.
Right, that's a very good point, but that also might be a good note to what we can expect for this record. Like maybe Luden's making that tells us that we should expect Die For You and Strangers to be on here. And in a sense, why wouldn't they be? I mean, it's almost impossible to like pin down what bands are going to do anymore, but it's like you might as well, right?
Right, but then have we heard half of this? Is it 8 tracks? You know, does Bring Me even give a fuck anymore how long? Like, is this a fucking 19-track EP?
I don't know if Bring Me gives a fuck anymore, honestly. They have like such a weird energy overall. They've very much been doing whatever they want to for a very long time at this point. Like, I think after probably, all right, Ammo Forward, this band has not given a fuck. They just do what they want, right?
They have not cared one bit.
Yeah.
I mean, you had that entire EP of just, hey, here's us cleaning out a file on the MacBook of all the crazy ideas we've had.
More bands should do that. Like, I don't even care, like, good, bad, or indifferent. Just, like, let us have it and we'll decide.
It's awesome because, like, as a fan, that's either canon or it isn't. Like, it doesn't even matter.
Precisely.
That's the coolest part about it.
I just think it's selfish, honestly, when bands don't release all their material. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about two other things that sort of popped up, which is there was a lot of discussion around the album artwork and people like being sort of hot and cold overall on what they thought about it. And for me, like, initially it really jumped out as being very cool to me. I loved it.
Yeah. So the biggest discourse around here was someone on the r/BMTH Reddit, the subreddit,
R.I.P. Reddit.
shared, or maybe not, fuck Reddit.
Or not.
Shared a DM that they sent to Jordan Fish, who's in this band, and mentioned that they thought the artwork didn't represent any of the singles or like the sonic nature of what we've heard so far.
Right. It had a lot of like main character energy in a really bad way. Yeah.
To which Jordan Fish replied to that paragraph. Yeah. With essentially not reading that, sorry that happened, or not, fucking blocked. Brilliant, wonderful. The exact energy that main character energy should be met with.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I thought that the artwork immediately stuck out as solid.
Yeah, I mean, for anyone who's been paying attention to Drop Dead for the last like 10 years and the way that that's kind of
looks like one
infiltrated
of
a
those
lot of like Bring Me the Horizons like general style and merchandise as well. Like I don't really think there's a surprise here with like the overall like I get that it has almost a like 90s core nu metal vibe to it, but in the same way that whole decade of music feels fresh again and is having like a little bit of a stylistic comeback. This seemed to make a lot of sense to me. And then I guess the other thing for me is, it's big seeing the Bad Omens support specifically for this Bring Me the Horizon tour, because there's a little bit of like, the royal queen anointing, like the up and coming, like, hey, who's taking the throne? Well, I mean, right now there's a band that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, this by no means is a passing the torch moment, but it's a sharing the torch moment, and I love it.
It's almost like an acknowledgement. For me, it's like just an acknowledgement. It's almost like saying, it's like, oh yeah, no, we heard, like we're also like aware enough that Bad Omens is like that next fucking shit. It's almost in a sense crazy to see like Bad Omens opening for Bring Me the Horizon, because part of me is starting to feel like they're almost synonymous with one another in terms of popularity, just because of the way Bad Omens has exploded recently.
It's crazy notating like the trajectory of Bad Omens in the past year. We're like, okay, this time last year, soon to be embarking on some support slots under A Day to Remember, who Bring Me the Horizon considered their main support on like whatever European tour they did. I think it was
called like a Post-Human tour or something at the time.
I thought so too. I think that happened last year. And now here we are in 2023, and like support slot for those same European tours, maybe even the same venues. Well, it's Bad Omens this time around. It's like that's the leap we've taken, but it's also a really cool full circle acknowledgement of Bad Omens in a lot of ways, in the sense that like you said, like this is Bring Me really noticing Bad Omens are the next big thing. But also for me, it's a cool thing where it's like, man, finally the band that got clowned on 24/7 when they first started as a Bring Me the Horizon ripoff gets to give a middle finger right back in the face of that entire crowd by saying, well, look at us now.
Right, and
whatever you considered us to be, we're opening for Bring Me the Horizon. And we're not in the Static Dress slot, we're not in the Cassette slot. Huge for both of those bands, by the way.
Huge for those artists. It just feels like every time Bring Me the Horizon chooses support, they're like anointing like the next big thing. Like that's when you like cement it. It's like, oh yeah, Bring Me the Horizon says Knock Loose is direct support. It's like, fucking, here we go.
Knock Loose are next.
Here we go.
Next up.
Here we go. It's like, oh, you remember when Lorna Shore got that Bring Me the Horizon slot, and people were like, it's fucking game over. Lorna Shore are fucking the next fucking thing. Deathcore big up right now.
I really love the other choices on here too, like Static Dress just makes so much sense with Bring Me the Horizon. This one feels like it was written in the stars to eventually happen. And I know that like Static Dress played on like the Malta Weekender maybe. I don't know, but like opening for Bring Me
Bonds were formed forever
happen,
at the Malta Weekender.
Honestly.
It's crazy that, by the way, we passed a year of the Malta Weekender and like we didn't do it again. I wonder if like that was ever an intention to like do that yearly. And then like I think Download Festival actually kind of like was this same weekend that they did Malta the year prior, and I wonder if that maybe scuttled some opportunity to do it again. I don't know.
Maybe.
It just felt like it was such a fucking raging success the way everybody like talked about it. It's you would have thought they would have ran it back, but I mean,
that shit like sold out in the first 10 minutes
pin down,
too.
Bring Me the Horizon, but everything they do sells out in the first 10 minutes.
Cassette is cool here too. An artist that I feel like we've never talked about on this show. This is another like knighting of that artist as well. And you see it immediately happen too, because then like Enter Shikari announces some US headlining dates. And guess who's opening for Anushkari?
Bring Me the Horizon. It's crazy. Anushkari are actually huge over here in the U.S., for those of you guys who aren't aware. Marcos, and then there were 8 or 7 or back to 9. Nobody's really fucking sure. Ahead of their European tour, Slipknot shared a now deleted message that they had chosen to part ways with Craig Jones, the band sampler and keyboardist for the past 27 years. The band nor Jones stated a reason for the departure. This announcement came after percussionist Sean Clown Crahan stated that he would not be with the group in Europe so that he could care for his wife, who has a chronic health issues. He actually did end up playing one of the dates of Download with the band. Moreover, a never-before-seen member appeared on stage with the band during the tour's opening show in Austria, followed by an Instagram post of the mysterious individual with like no further information. Just an absolute fucking deluge mess of like
shit show to follow.
Who knows what exactly the marketing is here, or if there is any. Social media person for Slipknot absolutely pulling their hair out for 24 hours trying to figure out what they're supposed to be doing. It's like, post this, delete it, this didn't actually happen. Just share this picture, they'll figure it out. Like I would quit on the spot.
I can only imagine what like the Wikipedia edits looks like for 15 minutes the day that this all went down.
Mm-hmm.
Member previously in this band, now in this band, now not, like, in unsure.
Right, the Wikipedia page, a dog drinking coffee while his house is burning down.
Linking to all the Instagram posts, and it's all dead links because they're getting deleted. Where are you with all this?
I mean, all right, listen, I'm gonna be real with all. My attachment to Slipknot has like wavered a little bit recently in I'll say the last decade, where my adoration isn't quite at the height it was before. So if a member up and leaves Slipknot, I'm like, hey, it was a good run. Thank you for your service. You know what I mean? And somebody new comes in, I'm like, I'm sure you'll be fine. I'm not really totally worried about it, right? So, you know, you do have this like maybe moment where you're going, fuck, this familiar mask is disappearing, right?
Is it easier to detach yourself when you don't know who they are?
They're all masks to me, right? It's like Clown's gone, Spiky Head's gone, right? I guess it's like it's almost like watching members leave Slipknot is just watching the passage of time, you know what I mean? It's just like, fuck, man. It doesn't actually matter, but it is like just a reminder that like this guy's probably like 53 and he's like, I don't really want to fucking play drums for fucking 6 months straight, actually. I just want to chill. Like, right. God knows I have enough money.
And playing drums for the last 27 years.
And it's like, I think when I posted the story, there was like a comment. Somebody was like, damn, man, wonder what happened. And it's like, I don't know, you ever like retire or quit a job or just like get over doing the same things over and over again? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure these guys are passionate about what they do, but I'm sure they probably develop other passions just like everybody else and think to themselves, I wish I had more time to do that. Yeah, and like this fucking Slipknot thing really eats up the entirety of my existence.
You know, and no better example than like Clown there. It's like, man, bigger shit to worry about at home than performing on this.
Sure. I mean, a little less with the Clown shit and a little more with the Craig Jones stuff. You know what I mean? Like, there's less gray area with why Clown. There is no gray area really with why Clown decided to step away.
Yeah, I mean, there is gray area with Craig Jones, obviously, in the sense that like not technically stated by either party why they're stepping away.
I mean, the baffling thing is that they posted he left and then they like deleted it. So it's like, what are you even doing right now? Like, did this happen or didn't it? Like, now I'm not even sure.
You're saying Clown still performed a date.
Yeah, Clown still performed a date.
Not Craig Jones.
No, the new guy was there, whoever that is. Whatever.
How do we feel about the new guy's mask? It looked real generic fucking Chat GPT spit me out an AI generated Slipknot mask.
I mean, sure, whatever. All the good masks were taken, right? This band also, I guess I didn't mention it here, but it was part of the news. They dropped like in the Adderall EP, which had like some demos and like revisions and stuff like that. And like I heard a track or two off. Like I heard one track. It was called like Death March, right? And it was all just like instrumental. And the video for it was fucking mannequins having their heads blown off. And it was like, all right, this is completely whatever. But then I heard like another song that was like kind of decent. Like it had like a real hard rock vibe to it. Like in a good in the good version of hard rock Corey Taylor, not like the most recent version of hard rock Corey Taylor.
CMFT.
Yeah, I'm thinking more like Stone Sour era. It was like, oh hey, this is almost like a version of the song that I feel like would have been really good on this album. You know, like this album maybe could have really used. I'm not going to get hung up on it, but at least I looked at the Adderall EP and I said, what are we even doing here? You just dropped an album. But then like I heard one of the songs and I was like, no, this is kind of good. I guess I am glad you dropped this. So going back to our discussion earlier.
Album last year, right?
Yeah, like fucking very recently. It was like October or whatever.
But it wasn't this year is what I mean. Like this is enough time between.
Fine, enough time has passed. This is more of like I wasn't asking for it, but it turns out like I kind of got something here. Maybe this speaks a little bit to what we were just talking about, Bring Me the Horizon. Fuck it, if it's on the hard drive, just drop it, and then I'll decide if it's worth my time. You know.
Let's get anything Craig worked on last out of here and start fresh. I don't know.
Marcus, Taylor Swift goes punk. One of the biggest voices in all of music, period, is teaming up with two of the biggest voices in all of emo, period, on the upcoming Speak Now Taylor's version or re-recording of Taylor's hit 2010 album. Those two emo voices, you ask, Brian Garris of Knocked Loose and kidding. So Hayley Williams of Paramore, the track Castles Crumbling, and Fall Out Boy, the entirety of that band, I suppose, on Electric Touch. Both were not present on the original version of Speak Now, obviously, and are notated as previously vaulted songs. So like we're dusting these suckers off, and we're bringing out the titans of emo to add a like.
Is vaulted the kind way of saying
cutting
B-side?
room floor? Yeah, a little bit, sure. I mean, I get okay. So here's
like this isn't vaulted with Hayley's original vocals from like.
Here's my big brain theory. Here's my big brain theory. Is that maybe these songs were in a style that was not fitting of the record, like emo. And then potentially they were vaulted maybe because, you know, you could pivot and try something different on the next record if you have a flop or something, you know? And now like we're bringing them back and like suddenly it's like, hey, you know, in a perfect world, if I could have released these songs, here's who I would have wanted on them, right? And now to be fair, Taylor Swift was Taylor Swift back then, but now Taylor Swift is still Taylor Swift.
Well, I mean, no way to
Swift,
flesh out a B-side more than saying, hey, well, let's throw Hayley on this unfinished verse I never wanted to follow through.
You can't call them B-sides after that anymore, right? Because the idea that like you're a B-side song with Hayley Williams on it seems insane to me. Like it's the most disrespectful thing you could ever say in the whole world, right?
And that's why you have to call it vaulted, because it's not in the original track list.
I see what you mean. So they like read over the language of this like 100 times before they dropped the press release to make sure they had it correct, right? It's like B-side, absolutely fucking not, dude.
It's like obviously like Paramore and Fall Out Boy are so big that like it's almost in their contract that they can't just be in B-sides. Like anything you release these bands on, it has to be like an official release of something or another.
Right, yeah, like don't play. Like this is big leagues. What's your best case scenario for this?
For me, that song with Hayley sounds like just that Castles Crumbling. I don't know, it sounds like a lower energy song, and that's why it's like, okay, Hayley Williams is the feature in here, not Paramore. To me, that sounds like it's a lot of like maybe like a back and forth type of thing, slower track, indie maybe. Interesting,
because I almost get a completely different vibe from it. The title of the song, for me, it has like Riot era energy to it.
Yeah. I don't know. And then alternatively, that Fall Out Boy one.
That one has me a little worried.
That one I almost think is like, that's not Fall Out Boy from 2007 we're getting. I'm a little worried it's like an Immortals type of.
Yeah, that one I'm a little more scared of. It's like, hey, listen, in Taylor we trust, but in Fall Out Boy we do not always. So we're gonna wait and see on that one.
And then like who knows? So what we're not acknowledging here is that like Taylor Swift is actually collecting all of the emo Infinity Stones at the moment.
Yeah.
What comes next? Red?
Yeah.
Is there a song on there, vaulted or not, that
Say the
will
name.
feature Gerard
Say the
Way?
name. Sure, let's fucking throw it out there. Is there a Taylor Swift song
We got fucking Yuri. Granted, it wasn't on a Taylor's version anything. It was like its own standalone thing.
It's just like my brain can't fathom, like I can't picture it the same way I can picture the other ones.
None of these other songs can be as bad as the Brendan Urie one, right?
Oh boy, God, I forgot that even happened.
Because like on the surface, okay, amazing. All of those artists together are awesome. But I would have said the same thing on paper about Taylor Swift teaming up with Brendan Urie fucking 4 or 5 years ago when they first did that.
I think the reality is that this feels more so like Taylor going, hey, I want to bring these artists in, where Brendan Urie felt more like, hey, both of our studios talked over the weekend and they had a really good idea. You know what I mean? Different energies.
Right.
Knock Loose are back and better than ever.
Knock loose, motherfucker!
They're returning with the release of the official music video for 2 singles, Deep in the Willow and Everything is Quiet Now. The songs are being marketed as the Upon Loss singles. And the band's Bonnaroo set is being streamed live on Hulu as we speak, or like earlier. I mean, not as you're listening to this, over the weekend.
As I wrote it.
And they're going to be all over the fucking Europe this summer, opening for Motionless in White on a U.S. fall tour as well.
Yep. Yeah, headlining European dates.
Gotcha.
And then direct support for Motionless in White.
Yeah, that's big.
That's a big one.
That's big.
Look at those venues that Motionless in White are playing. They're fucking big.
This is the pandemic tour brought back to life, right?
Yeah, this is the
because they were supposed to play together.
Tour,
yeah.
right.
And then obviously that was like fucking snapped out of existence when we experienced that whole thing we did for a few years. So it's cool to see that come back. Let's go back and talk about first the new songs and the music video. So
reaction video up on our page about that.
Yeah, we went deep in character to react to that one. Tried to really like feel and live the music video a little bit. Go check that out. Really proud of that one. Really proud of Knock Loose for these 2 tracks, because I think this band just continues to build on their sound in just such an impressive way that I feel so many other bands could learn. I'm looking at an artist like Knock Loose and thinking of them in the same way that I think of a Bring Me the Horizon, where I look at where they started and how fun it was, but now look at where they are and how much they've grown, but managed to maintain my interest in different ways through the course of that growth. Is just like, it's all you could ever ask for, is that like I love growing with an artist, and like it's been a fucking joy to grow with an artist like Knock Loose. Whoever could have thought, like again, look at like a Bring Me the Horizon. Whoever thought Bring Me would sound the way they did on Lost, in the same way that like I couldn't ever quite picture the Knock Loose I first heard sounding like they do on Deep in the Willow and Everything is Quiet Now.
Yeah,
though I guess they're slightly closer at this point than like the disparity of like a band with a much longer career.
Totally, but man, there's like there's so much more theater involved, obviously visually.
I mean, this music
also
video is astoundingly good.
Yeah, but like sonically, there's so much more theater present.
They speak to one another in a really good way, right? It's like this band aesthetically is like at the same level. Their presentation matches their sound like across the board.
Yep. This is really impressive. The music video, and it's for both songs, is one of the, it's like must watch. I kind of want to sell it as
100%. I think the way it's filmed is
required
brilliant.
viewing as far as the scene goes.
I think its thematic storytelling is absolutely incredible. I think its inspirations are very well worn and very much like in line with my tastes. It's just a 10 out of 10 from every angle.
Incredible atmosphere, cinematography goes insane. You talk about like, you know, what appeals to you. Like, we're really into horror here at the SOTS podcast. This
State of the Scream, baby.
State of the Scream. This is very reminiscent of like Ty West films.
Yeah, there's obviously an A24 vibe to it.
The Ritual as well. Like,
yeah.
All of those
The costume design is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. And like just the way they pull it all together, especially with like the band still performing within frames.
And it's never too serious on itself to not also be silly enough where a line like "knocked loose motherfucker" absolutely hits.
100%. Required viewing as far as I'm concerned. Songs are awesome, and honestly better than anything off of what was a flawless EP in A Terror in the Fabric of Life.
like I and you say that like with all due respect, because that EP was fucking amazing. We've already passed it.
Totally.
Speaking of passing it, Mark was asking Alexandria announced our 8 full-length studio album, which is going to be called Where Do We Go From Here, which is interesting because I feel like it's very much a line from a different song from earlier in their career.
Yeah.
And that'll be out this fall on Better Noise Music. Alongside the confirmation of that new album, the band also dropped 2 more singles, Psycho and Bad Blood, following up Dark Void from earlier this May. Speaking about the meaning of the new album title, Daniel Warsnop said, "I think it's an eternal question we all have from time to time, especially for musicians and especially ones who have been doing it for 15 years. There's always the what's next. We kind of pass through a generation. The industry's different. The world's different. And we got to figure it out. How the hell is this working now? Marcus, is this working now?"
Fans are asking themselves the same thing, right? Where do we go from here with Ask Alexandria? I guess that there's a certain subset of their fans that they probably earned in the past handful of years that are super into this. And then there's a lot of people who have been along for the whole ride, those 15 years that this band highlights. And it's getting real bumpy. It's getting real shaky. We are off track, like off the road, I think. I don't know where I am with this band anymore.
I mean, I do, but it's just really sad when I say it out loud. So it's like I almost want to stop myself and try to wriggle my way out of it in some way. Ultimately, it's just I look at this band and it's like I don't hear them anymore. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. And
it does.
And I don't mean that in like all the ways that people immediately want to jump to. Hey, bands can't be heavy forever. Listen, I get it. You don't have to go far back in this episode for me to sing the praises of an artist that used to be heavy and isn't anymore, but I still really enjoy them. And I'm absolutely struggling to make this transition with Asking Alexandria because I just don't feel that what they're presenting now is anywhere nearly as compelling as what they were doing on earlier in their career, but even as recent as their self-titled record. And I just think in these last 2 albums and now the most recent singles for this upcoming album, that any amount of character or personality that this band has, I'm grasping at straws to like find in these songs.
I think it's pretty fair at this point too to say that we've heard what this album sounds like. We're 3 singles in. We've had Dark Void, we had Psycho, we had Bad Blood, whatever the fuck it was called.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know what sort of cards we still have up our sleeves because I don't think they're there. I think that the album is going to sound like 2 or 3 different more variations of those same songs we've heard. I don't know. I'm also very tired. of the full sentence Asking Alexandria album title. We've gotten 3 in a row. I don't know if you've noticed.
I mean, that's probably the least of my hangups, to be honest with you. Where I'm sitting right now is
they're
that
all
like
bleeding together in a weird way that like this is almost a trilogy of sorts for me.
that has me optimistic. So, you know, I kind of keep coming back to the same thing with this song, and it's been a frustrating pattern with this band specifically this year, but also with a few other bands I've heard this year, where it just feels like there's such a lack of flow and natural follow through with the ideas in the songs that makes these singles feel like they're interesting ideas that just feel chopped up and glued together in a way that they don't really allow me to latch on to any one thing. So every time I have a moment where I think to myself, oh, hey, that sample's kind of interesting, it's gone just like that.
Before you can get that thought out, they pivot and the song just takes a turn for the worse every single time.
Or Danny's really hit on something with this vocal delivery, it's gone just like that. And I really felt like I hit a wall with Dark Void, particularly because, you know, it felt like 6 30-second samples of a song stuck together and then repeated, and Psycho feels exactly the same, and then Bad Blood does in an even worse but slightly more pandering way, where, you know, a lot of the discussion around the 2 new singles were kind of that like, hey, you know, Psycho's a sort of generically octane prepped rock song, but you go listen to those 45 seconds of Bad Blood, and that's the Asking Alexandria you've been missing. And it's like, I need to stop you guys. And it's not just the we're screaming or singing part, because I cannot exaggerate enough how much I think Danny is not the problem with Asking Alexandria, because I think he has a really great voice. And I never really go into or come out of an Asking song and think to myself, Danny sounded off. It's everything else that's off, and Danny can't save it. And that's just from a vocal perspective. Like, you know, if Danny Worsnop's also out there writing lyrics, then yes, I do have some issues, because like Psycho in particular just feels like, you know, your high school level approach to writing a rock song, and it's really depressing.
Well, I mean, the biggest question mark about this album, at least before it was announced officially, was that Danny went online and mentioned that like he was going through some stuff. He didn't really have like the mental capacity to do a lot of the writing on this album, which is why they brought in like 2 or 3 quote unquote ghost writers. Not so ghostly now, because we acknowledge they exist, to help write this album. So like, I don't even know who to like point a finger at.
I guess that makes sense to me, because this does feel like somebody handed Asking Alexandria a bunch of rock songs to perform. And that's why I don't get any of that Asking Alexandria out of it, with the sole exception of Danny Worsnop's voice, which I guess will always be a standout. Inherent in an Asking song, right? I'd be lying if I said I was anticipating this album in any sense. This is...
Hype levels not through the roof at the moment for you?
Completely absent, if not maybe slightly burrowing into the negatives. And it's like I don't even enjoy dogging on this band. Like, I'm just bummed. Like,
yeah, I'm past
I
that
want to
point
talk
too.
about Asking Alexandria the way I talk about, you know, the way we talk about fucking Bring Me the Horizon in relation to every other band. Period. Like, Asking Alexandria should be right there with them. There's no reason they shouldn't be. They're that fucking band. That name has the same level of recognition. It's just like the songwriting isn't there. Somebody commented like, if Bring Me the Horizon wrote this song, you guys would fucking love it. And
no,
I think you're right, because if Bring Me wrote the song, it wouldn't sound anything like it does. And that's just like facts. Like, it's not a 1-to-1 comparison at this point. Not in the way it used to be. Marcus, you want to read that final news story and we'll get out of here?
bassist and singer Thomas Freckleton exits Silent Planet following a decade plus. I think it was 11 years with the band. Thomas put a pretty lengthy statement out on Twitter. I just had a couple of highlights that I picked from it. Just stuff that we mentioned about the choice decks of this band. I start with a quote. However, as I was chasing my dreams with Planet, Thomas continues, I was also starting a family, and as you can expect, touring brought challenges and hardships. Especially once we decided to grow our family, I would be gone 6 to 8 months out of the year, which is fucking accurate, because I remember there being a time where it felt like Silent Planet was on every tour or headlining every tour for a minute. Which lasted a few solid years. Things have changed. My priorities have shifted, and I found happiness outside myself. Thomas adds, there is something very personal in my life that has hindered me from enjoying touring to the fullest for the last 9 years. As some of you know, I was struck by a drunk driver while riding my bicycle, and as a result, I have a fusion in my spine. The chronic pain I endure daily only makes it harder. So a couple of things lending themselves to this decision, still dealing with some chronic pain. Hopefully that gets a little easier to deal with now that we are no longer dealing with the busy touring life and all of the uncomfortable nature of that, sleeping in vans and whatnot.
Yeah, on paper it should, right?
Right. And also, of course, Thomas has a family now. I think they just accepted a kid into the family, all that. So I
gotta be honest, this one hurt. I listen, Thomas leaving Silent Planet has more impact than any member of Slipknot leaving that band ever will to me at this point. And I just...
This one hurts in a bittersweet way to be very clear here. Like, man, all of that makes a ton of sense. Like, those are all of the reasons you would exit a band, right? But man, it hurts, right? That is a quarter of Silent Planet, a voice of Silent Planet, one that we have been familiar with since, the inception of that band pretty much. And now I'm curious what Silent Planet looks like moving forward. Like, Thomas gets replaced, I'm sure, as a bassist, but...
Yeah, well, they posted a picture of a guy in a mask the other day, but they haven't said who the identity is.
It's actually Craig Jones.
Yeah.
But do we replace the voice? Does Garrett take on singing duties entirely? Like, what does that look like?
Hard to say. Nothing but speculation at this point. But this does feel significant, right? So it'll be interesting to see how Silent Planet chooses to, move forward. Precisely.
They are teasing new material. I don't know if it's already going to not feature Tom. Like, I wasn't sure exactly how long this was in the works. It sounds like Tom recently sat the band down and sort of debriefed them on his decision. So I don't know if any of this new material already has Tom on it or not, or what's happening, right?
Yeah, we'll have to wait and let the band specify what the case is there. But I guess that sentiment of bittersweetness would be even stronger. So hopefully if Thomas is on those songs, they end up being really bad. And then we can be like, thank God this guy's out of the band. You know what I mean? Yeah, going to miss him. That really sucks. But still optimistic for that project moving forward.
Thomas did mention, over time, that they would return to music, by the way. This seems like a pretty...
Needed a break.
Get my feet back under me type of thing. And then, I'm a creative person. I'll explore that side of myself later on.
Yeah, honestly, I did the same thing. I picked up a guitar. I think it's been about 20 years ago at this point.
I remember that.
I think I'm still going to go back to it. Yeah. I'm feeling like the urge come on.
You still have to learn Wonderwall, right?
That's precisely correct. Hey, listen, everybody. We'll be back next week. Love you. Bye.
Good fucking bleh.